I offer my respectful obeisances to Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu Swami Prabhupada, who brought us to the lotus feet of Śrīla Rūpa Goswāmī. We are Rupa-anugas, who are following in the footsteps of Śrīla Rūpa Goswāmī. Tanama Rupa Charitari Sikirtananu Smrityo Kramina Rasanamanasi Niyoja Tishtam Vraje Tanaruragi Jananugami Kalam Nayed Akilimiti Upadeśāmṛta. Rupa Goswami points out in his Upadeśāmṛta that the means for success in devotional service is to follow in the footsteps of the residents of Vrindavan. And in all ways, the only success in devotional service is by positioning oneself in such a way that one can take the dust of the lotus feet of the Vaishnavas. Naisham matisthavanarukramangrim sprishātyanarto pagamodya artaha mahiyasam padarajobhishekam niskinchananam navranita yavat. Prahlad Maharaj says, you must find a niskinchana Vaishnav. That is, a Vaishnav who has no prospect in this material world, no interest in the material world. Only interest is in pursuing the lotus feet of the servants of the servants of the servants of Śrīla Rūpa Goswāmī. And we hear also in the 5th canto of the Bhagavatam, Marhuganai tattapasa na yati na chejaya nirvapanad grihadva na chandasa naiva grihad suryar vinamahat padara jobhishekam. And that is, there are various ways in which people conceive of purifying themselves by militant restriction of the senses, taking freezing cold baths in the winter, or going in the hot sun and even making it hotter by lighting fires. Or some people rigidly follow a particular ashram, whether it's the sannyas ashram or the grihastha ashram or the rules of varnashrama. They intend to purify themselves to some degree. That may be. But vinamahat padarajobhishekam, without getting an abhishek of the dust, the raja, of the lotus feet of the devotees, there's no possibility of attaining success in devotional service. This is the primary means of success. So Śrīla Prabhupāda has brought us to this place in the way that he made his campaign in the West. I remember once being in the San Francisco airport, and I had a copy of I had many copies of the Upadeśāmṛta, and a young man from Taiwan happened to be flying through. If you haven't guessed, we were distributing books in the airport with permission of the airport. They gave us a permit. And I just remember after he had given a donation of $10 and taken the Upadeśāmṛta and put it in his carry-on bag, and I watched him as he walked through security, and I was thinking of this place and how Rupa Goswami had come here as a meditation on the Lord, who from this place calls his cows every day, and in the way of codifying everything Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had taught by his example and his ecstasy of devotional service. He made this primer of Upadeśāmṛta so that people could follow in the footsteps of the Lord. Why is it that it is Śrīla Prabhupāda who brought us here? He translated it. He painstakingly took the works of Rupa Goswami, notably the Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu, which he summarized, and then he gave the word-for-word translations and the translations and purports to the Upadeśāmṛta, because this is the knowledge that Rupa Goswami had assimilated directly from Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu, who we might note didn't write any books. In fact, it was hard for him to even read a book, because as we know at Tota Gopinath, he had Gadadhar Pandit read Srimad Bhagavatam to him Because whenever Mahaprabhu would either try to do puja or he would try to read a book, he was crying so profusely in ecstasy, he would drench himself and have to change his clothes many times to do the puja, or the book itself would be destroyed by the sheer volume of the tears coming from his eyes. He empowered Śrīla Rūpa Goswāmī, Śrīla Sanatana Goswami, and others to take what he had so effusively presented through his own example and put it into a step-by-step process. This is the impetus of the great souls, the acharyas, then thinking how the rest of the world would take to Krishna consciousness. And very specifically, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had this sense of mercy that Shukadeva Goswami had carried when he went out into the world, as is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the 3rd verse, where it is said that Karunayava Tirna Kalau, that he, that's not the 3rd verse. How does it start? Yaswanubhavam akila shuti saram ekam adhyatma deepam atirshatam tamondam samsarinam karunayaha purana guyam tam vyasasunam upayan gurum muninam. After Shukadeva Goswami had assimilated the knowledge of the Bhagavatam, he took it out and wandered the world just out of a sense of mercy for those who would want to cross over the dark features of the darkness of Kali Yuga. And Śrīla Prabhupāda's mission statement is in his own pranam mantra, which he wrote, Namaste, Saraswate Devi. He identifies himself as a servant of that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Namaste Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Prasharine, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi, Pashchatya Desha Tarine. Pashchatya Desh means Silicon Valley. It means London. It means all these places. That was his mission, to reach those people with the teachings of Rupa Goswami, codified, translated in English, and also given example by the way he set up ashrams and showed everyone how to live a life following the footsteps of Srila Rupa Goswami. And very practically, anyone in the world now can take to the process of bhakti yoga and by gradual steps reach the highest perfection of life by the mercy of the great acharyas. Srila Rupa Goswami, Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu stapitam yena bhutale swayam rupa kadahmayam dadati sva padantikam. This verse written by Narottam Das Thakur, which describes Srila Rupa Goswami, Mano Bhishtam. He knew the heart of Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu. And we find in the Antya Lila of the Śrī Caitanya Charitamrita the ways in which Rupa Goswami, coming from Vrindavan, had come back to Jagannath Puri. He came painstakingly along the bank of the Ganges, and then he had gone to visit Srila Haridas Thakur, with whom he stayed in Jagannath Puri, and Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu came there, and they both, Haridas Thakur and Rupa Goswami, offered obeisances to Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu. Haridas Thakur said, "Here is Srila Rupa Goswami offering you obeisances." Of course, Mahaprabhu had met him and already instructed him in the process of devotional service over 10 days. He embraced him at that point. And the Antya Lila beginning describes how Srila Rupa Goswami had seen and heard Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu at the Ratha Yatra in Jagannath Puri. And while he was at the Ratha Yatra at Jagannath Puri, give me that verse. Yeah, just give it to me. He had, please. He had sung a secular song again and again. Yakomara harasa eva hivaras, which I'll sing for you if Sudhir will hand over his phone. If you can accompany. Yakomara harasa eva hivaras ta eva chaitra shapas Te kon militamalati surabaya Roda kadambanila Sachai vasmitata pitatra surata Vyapara lila vidon Reva rodasi vedasi tarutare Cheta samudkantate. A little different. Reva rodasi vedasi tarutale Cheta samudkantate. That very personality who stole my heart during my youth is now again my master. These are the same moonlit nights of the month of Chaitra. The same fragrance of malati flowers is there, and the same sweet breezes are blowing from the Kadamba forest. In our intimate relationship, I am also the same lover. Yet still my mind is not happy here. I am eager to go back to that place on the bank of the Reva, under the Vatasi tree. That is my desire. So this verse is a verse written in books at the time where students would learn which kind of material not to write. It's considered a passionate verse because it's the story of two lovers, and they had been there in a romantic setting, in love. Later, the heroine of the verse is married, and she's thinking back that I want to go back and experience that same feeling we had before. Not like this, although we're together, I'm not feeling it. And when Rupa Goswāmī heard this verse, as many people had heard, only Swarup Damodar could understand why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was singing this, and Rupa Goswāmī, who didn't speak it at the time. But when he came back to Puri, he was engaged in writing the Vidagdha Madhava and the Lalita Madhava. And there he wrote this parallel verse because he understood why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was singing this secular song. It would be like nowadays some special guest saint comes to Rath Yatra and sings something from, what's her name? Taylor Swift. Some popular song, and everyone's like, why are you singing that in this context? So Rupa Goswāmī clarified, and he wrote another verse. Jagannatha Swami. Wait. Tune for Jagannatha Ashtakam. Da, da, da. Okay. Priya soyam Krishna sahachari Kurukshetra militas tataham saradha tadidam ubayor sangamasukam tatapyanta kelan madhura murali panchamajushe mano me kalindi pulina vipinaya srihayati. And this is the verse Rupa Goswāmī wrote in parallel to what he heard at Rath Yatra. My dear friend, this is Srimati Radharani speaking to Krishna at Kurukshetra. And this is a parallel with Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu. In the 82nd chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, we find the meeting of the residents of Vrindavan. And of course, Krishna had come there to perform sacrifice during the eclipse of the sun. And millions of people came. The minions who followed him from Dwarka were bedecked with jewels and gold, and he had armies. And great saints and sages came from every part of the universe. Bards had gone out to announce Krishna's coming to Kurukshetra. And the residents of Vrindavan had heard those bards, and they decided, after 107 years of separation from Krishna, after he left with Akrura, to come to Vrindavan, to come to Kurukshetra to meet Krishna. So when they arrived, they're meeting between the various queens of Krishna, but when the residents of Vrindavan arrived and Krishna was informed, he went and met with his mother and father, and then he went to meet with his gopis. And Srimati Rani's there, and she sees Krishna as a prince in his royal dress in a completely different mood. Do you see the parallel to the first song? Because saying in this verse, "My dear friend, now I have met my very old and dear friend Krishna on this field of Kurukshetra. I am the same Radharani, and now we are meeting together. It is very pleasant, but I would still like to go to the bank of the Jumuna, beneath the trees of the forest there. I wish to hear the vibration of his sweet flute, playing the fifth note within that forest of Vrindavan." So, when Radharani sees Krishna as a royal prince, and Krishna is saying, "We can be together in Dwarka," and Radharani is saying, "Not like that. I can't see you in the same way. We have to be there in the backdrop of Vrindavan." And Vrindavan is the place where Krishna is most intimate with his devotees. It's God at home, where there's no pretense. There's no fanfare. Everyone just loves Krishna unabashedly. And Radharani's praying for him to come back in our Ratha Yatra that we enact, that is enacted in Jagannath Puri, is a reenactment of this pastime, where Radharani's pining for him to come back to Vrindavan. That's why we pull the cart to the Gudicha Mandir, which is Vrindavan in Jagannath Puri. And so, Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu Stapitam Yena Bhutale. Srila Rupa Goswāmī understood the heart of Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu. It's revealed there. As when he wrote that verse, he had gone to take a bath in the sea. And at that time, when you write something, it would be on a palm leaf. And he stuck that palm leaf with the writing on it in the thatch of his roof. As a placeholder, it kind of looked like a little flag sticking up. And what a flag it was, because when Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu came there and found it, he plucked it out from the thatch in the roof. And then he read it. And soon afterwards, Rupa Goswāmī had come from taking his bath in the sea. And when Caitanya Mahāprabhu approached him, he slapped him mildly out of love and said, "How did you know my heart? Śrī Caitanya Manobhishtam. How did you know it was my heart?" And later, Caitanya Mahāprabhu revealed to Swarup Damodar Ramananda Roy, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, in an assembly, said, "Just see how he has written this verse." And Swarup Damodar had opined that, yes, you had told us previously, you met Rupa Goswāmī, and you had infused him with your transcendental energy to understand everything about devotional service. Therefore he was empowered to write the pastimes of Krishna, what Lalita Madhava, Vidagdha Madhava, what to speak of Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu, without which we'd have no idea of how to transfer our emotions from the material world to the spiritual world, or that there even were spiritual emotions, because everyone thinks that the opposite of material life means Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. But in Vrindavan, there's no Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. It's open 24 hours a day. Nobody ever sleeps. Krishna doesn't even sleep. He gets home and he looks like he's a nice little boy, but then he sneaks out the window at night. And when his mother sees scratches on his body the next day from his loving affairs, not to be too esoteric, but he says, "Yeah, I got stuck in some bushes somewhere." So Rupa Goswāmī is the one that all of our great acharyas, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Narottam Das Thakur, we can look at them all, they all point back. Raghunath Das Goswami, who is the Prayojan Acharya, Adadana Stridamdhanter, Idam Dyache Punah Punah, Shriman Rupa Padamboja, Dulisam Janma Janmani. He's praying, is Raghunath Das Goswami, that let me with some grass in my mouth, which means very humbly, I have nothing more to say. I'm a fool, I can't say anything more. I'm only approaching with grass in my mouth. And I'm offering my obeisances life after life to Śrīla Rupa Goswami. Śrīla Rupa Goswami is Rupa Manjari, who's the intimate servant of Srimati Radharani in the spiritual world. And this is the trajectory of those who are followers of Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu in the Gaudiya Sampradaya. However, as Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out, to follow in the footsteps of Rupa Goswami doesn't mean to imitate his position as a manjari in the spiritual world. Rather, we're to follow his footsteps in the way he manifested in this world as the perfect servant of Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu. What did he do? He went to Vrindavan on the order of Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu to excavate the holy places and also to write books. And who did he write the books for? That young man from Taiwan. If he only knew how his book had been rendered into the most popular language in the world and then gone into people's bags at the airport. It's an amazement. But this is also the desire of Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu. And Rupa Goswami resided at the Radha Damodar temple. He established that place. And Śrīla Prabhupāda started his great enterprise, spiritual entrepreneurialism, just from that tiny little room. And we know, in the mundane sense, Hewlett-Packard started in a tiny little garage, as did Apple. Steve Jobs was barefoot, running up and down El Camino Real, trying to sell his little contraption and working out of his father's garage. But because his desire was intense, then he got this big burden of a material enterprise and got us all addicted to looking at an iPhone. But in the spiritual sense, it all started there at the Radha Damodar temple when Prabhupada came there with the intention of following in the footsteps of Śrīla Rupa Goswami and showing us how to follow in his footsteps. In that tiny little stone room at the Radha Damodar Mandir, there he began to pen his books following in the footsteps of Rupa Goswami, Pashchatya Desha Tarine. He wanted to get those who were the most far-flung, in the most far-flung places, and who had fallen in the most lowly positions in the world. And he was successful because he followed in the footsteps of Śrīla Rupa Goswami. So in this holy place of Terkadam, we pray, dear Śrīla Prabhupāda, dear Śrīla Rupa Goswami, if you so desire, please empower us to carry on following in your footsteps, to bring the teachings of Śrī Caitanya Mahāprabhu in comprehensible forms to people all over the world, especially Pashchatya Desha, so they can also come here, join in the kirtan, and dance in ecstasy, following in your lotus footprints. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone agrees with this prayer, in whole or in part. Please unmute and say Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo.